I've said it multiple times, I think on the podcast, probably written it, but I felt like when OU and Texas left, that the Big 12 went out and got about the best 4 free agents that they could have gotten in UCF, Cincy, Houston, and BYU, all teams, especially from a football perspective, that had good recent success. So with these 4 teams new to the Big 12, you got 4 more joining from the Pac-12 next year. This league is going to become as far-flung as really any college football fan has ever experienced. Obviously, they're not going to be the only ones. The Big Ten is going to be like that, but this is the way of the world in modern college football. I'm just curious from your guys' perspective. Do you think that in this sort of, fragmented geographic environment that, new rivalries can develop? Zach, I'll start with you. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, it's going to take time. Obviously, we're going from a game like Texas, where that was 113 meetings to literally like one of the newest teams, Power 5 teams in the country. Right. So it's like you're going from one extreme to the other, right? But yeah, I think there's absolutely room for growth. Now, I don't know how easily a school like Baylor, with what it stands for, and a school like UCF that has DJ Pauly D coming before the game, like
that's Zach a weird. Is really excited about that.
I can't wait. My real question, Matt, is how quickly can I go from the DJ Pauly D set to the press box, because I can't miss that.
But you'll make it. Believe me, you'll make it in time. Don't worry.
I'm not missing that. I've been looking forward to that since they announced it. But anyway, I don't know how. I don't think DJ Pauly D is going to come to Waco. You know what I mean? No. So I'll just it's just going to take time. Like, there absolutely will, create rivalries. I know there's some rivalry with like Colorado, right, when they were in the Big 12 and stuff. But like I said, it's just going to take time. So it'll happen, right? But just be patient. But can't wait for DJ Pauly D.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think it's just going to take time. It's interesting. I talked to UCF AD Terry Mahajer the other day, and he's on the football scheduling committee with the Big 12 now. And I asked him, how do you schedule? Look at what BYU has Utah, for their rival. When you think about it, Arizona has Arizona State. You've got all these kind of already established rivalries for hundreds of years. How does a UCF go about trying to create that? They don't have that, So Cincinnati is the closest thing they're going to have. I mean, and that's just from the good games they've had in the American. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to take time to establish them. I think it's going to take some great games. I think you're going to have some games that were, come down to the wire, and there's some great finishes. I think that's how you start to establish some of those rivalries. And I think, again, it's going to take 4 or 5, 6 years. And you got to wonder with the scheduling, is it going to be like it is in some of these other conferences where maybe you have 3 permanent opponents, and that's going to kind of be how those can be established, and you're going to have some others that get rotated in. That's going to make a big difference as well. And it wouldn't shock me if, like, at some point, if Cincinnati's going to be UCF's one of their permanent, opponents, and maybe West Virginia, because of the East Coast, time slot, they want to put them in there as well. So I think no matter what, I think you're going to see that. I think fans are going to help that out as well. They're going to jump in and help the rivalries to happen. And it's just going to take some really close games. I agree with Zach. It's just going to take time. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight.
And I think it helps that sorry, Brice. I think it helps, though, that, kind of the 2 quote unquote big dogs in Texas and Oklahoma are leaving, so that, it's kind of wide open as far as who's going to be the next big dog. It could be Baylor. It could be, UCF. It could be anyone, really. Right. And so I think that creates an even more dynamic, butting heads,
Yeah. For years, certainly people looked at Texas as kind of the team that had sort of its thumbprint all over the league, that they were kind of the reason maybe that Nebraska left. People hated the Longhorn Network. They felt like that wasn't fair. I tend to both agree and disagree with you guys. Yes, I do think over time rivalries could develop. I do think Matt makes a good point that for the teams that are sort of segregated, like UCF, like West Virginia has now been in the league a while, and I still don't feel like they have a rival. Maybe that will develop with Cincinnati because they are kind of close. Baylor has had they have a good basketball rivalry with Kansas. Mm-hmm. Their fans. This is where I think rivalries could develop in sort of the new age of college football, is like social media and that kind of thing. Matt, you were talking about UCF fans in that regard. Like Baylor and Iowa State fans have gotten into it on social media before, and that has sort of like fostered that rivalry a little bit. But nevertheless, the two biggest rivalries for Baylor now, with Texas leaving, are Texas Tech and TCU. And TCU by far is just Baylor's chief rival. And that's, it goes back to history and geography and, the fact that TCU's 90 minutes up the road and used to, here's a little tidbit for you, Matt, used to be in the same town as Baylor 100 and something years ago. They were both in Waco. So yeah, I think it's going to be tougher for UCF. I don't know. Here's just a little hypothetical. Matt, what do you think about this? Like, if, for instance, Florida State were to finally say, nah, we're done with the ACC. This isn't working for us. And they were to come into this league, would UCF welcome that? Or would they be like, no, we got a nice little thing carved out here as the only Florida team in the Big 12. I mean, what's your thought on that?
I think it would, in one way they'd welcome it, because I think they would say, okay, what gives us a natural rivalry, in state. And Florida State and UCF have not, outside of basketball and a couple of sports, have not played in football. I know that for a long time. So, they would probably welcome that opportunity. They've kind of skirted the issue about scheduling. So I think they would welcome that. But you're right. They would have gotten in here. They'd have been like, okay, well, now we're the only Florida school. All of a sudden, then Florida State shows up and brings its tradition and its history and everything. And so I think on one hand, they might be like, yeah, this is great. It helps us out and it establishes a little bit. But on the other hand, they would want a little bit of the idea of being the only school from Florida. I mean, listen, they were very, when USF went to the Big East and UCF tried to join the Big East. This is a history lesson on my part for you guys. USF tried to ban getting UCF into the Big East. Their president tried to get the school not in. So that a lot of people heard about that, and UCF got angry about that. So when they joined the American and got in together, well, you got to better believe when they were playing each other, it was personal, because it was like, you try to keep us out. So that's a good rivalry. That's how you get a good rivalry going. So again, if Florida State were coming, I think they would love it in a way, and I think they'd want to jump at the opportunity to play that school and prove to themselves. Because again, now that they're a Power Five, they feel like they're one of the Big Four in the state of Florida. Florida State and Florida may not think that, or Miami may not think that, but that's how UCF sees itself.
Yeah, very good.